The anniversary committee said to me, Reverend, this is the 25th anniversary of the federal holiday, and we need you to speak. I said, well, what do you want me to speak about? I know it's Dr. King's birthday, but what do you want me to speak about? They said, well, Reverend, speak about 3 minutes. Somebody should have told them that it takes a Baptist preacher 3 minutes just to clear his throat. But it is my distinct privilege and honor to welcome you on behalf of the Ebenezer family to this great house of God. We celebrate today a co-pastor and leader of this church, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is the 25th year of our celebrating him nationally, federally. But this is Ebenezer's 125th year as a worshiping congregation. And I lift that up because while we celebrate Dr. King, because indeed he was freedom's voice, we cannot forget that freedom's voice was a part of a freedom train. There were folk who spoke truth to power before him. And it's up to us now to speak truth to power after him. We celebrate Dr. King, but Dr. King did not emerge ex nihilo, out of nothing and out of nowhere. His maternal grandfather, A.D. Williams, also a pastor of this church, at the turn of the century, in an era in the American South where, in the words of Billie Holiday, strange fruit used to hang from southern trees, A.D. Williams had the courage to fight for the first decent public high school for black children. And Martin Luther King Jr. and his siblings attended the high school that was created as a result of the advocacy of his maternal grandfather. His father, Martin Luther King Sr., led a voting rights campaign here in Atlanta in 1935. And so while we celebrate the voting rights law in 1965, the groundwork was being laid as early as 1935 by his father. Freedom's voice is always a part of a freedom train. And so we celebrate this morning the continuing progression of our great march toward freedom. Dr. King emerged from a great tradition where people of African descent worked out a freedom faith in the sanctuary and basements of black churches for decades. Vincent Harding says that we transformed this Christian faith. Vincent Harding, the great historian, reminds us that we first met the American Christ on slave ships. We first heard his name sung in hymns of praise while we died in our thousands beneath the decks with sad memories of our families and our homes. When we leaped from the decks, we saw the name of Jesus carved on the ship's solid sides. When our women were raped in the cabins, they must have noticed the great holy books on the shelves. And so we were not simply converted to Christianity, we converted Christianity and made it a liberating faith. And from that tradition, Martin Luther King Jr. was born. He spoke eloquently, he spoke truth to power because he came from a people who knew how to make a way out of no way, who knew how to transform dark nights into bright days. And so they gave us the Bible. They turned over to Ephesians and said, slaves, obey your masters. We took the Bible, said there's something else in there. We turned over to Exodus, where God told Moses to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. They gave us scraps and we made soul food. We've been thanking God for Pascals ever since. They gave us the blues and we made music. The blues and the spirituals, gospel, all come from the same root, the anguished ruminations of a subjugated people speaking to God in their own voice. We're a part of freedom's train. And in a real sense, that's what America is all about. America is a freedom train, because freedom is not a destination. Freedom is a journey. And we have to stay on the journey. Our white sisters and brothers arrived on these shores and they thought they understood what freedom was all about. And they spoke eloquently and powerfully about it. Thomas Jefferson said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. First of all, when he said all men, he really did mean men. And when he said all, he really didn't mean all. And that's why I'm so glad that come a few months from now, in August of 2011, when you stand at the Jefferson Memorial and look off in the distance, standing at the Jefferson Memorial, if you were to look across the horizon in a few more months, you'll see a black man standing there with his arms folded. As if to say to Thomas Jefferson, did you mean what you said when you said what you said? And so, sisters and brothers, let us not simply feel good in this place, but let's go from this mountain to the valley where there's a lot more work to do. We've got to keep the freedom train moving. Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me death. His slave said, me too. Men congratulated themselves and said, we built a mighty democracy. Women stood up through the women's suffrage movement and said, me too. We Christians have a liberating faith. We've talked about Jesus, the liberator. But of late, Muslim sisters and brothers and Jewish sisters and brothers and Hindus and others are saying, me too. And I stand with them this morning. Because you cannot offend another person's faith in the name of my faith. You cannot gather in the house of prayer for all people on Sunday and fight against a mosque on Monday. If you burn the Quran today, you'll burn a cross on my lawn tomorrow. So let's keep the freedom train moving. We're saddened by Arizona. But if it teaches us anything, it ought to teach us that we need to stand together. And so I would hazard a hunch this morning. I will step out on faith and say to our sisters and brothers in the Congress that there is a proposal afloat. Some say it's symbolic, but I think it has power. There is a tradition that when the State of the Union address is given, some sit on this side, of course, others sit on that side. You've watched it. One side stands up, the other one sits down, vice versa. I got on a plane this morning from Savannah, Georgia, had to give a speech last night. The plane made its way here. We did a turn to the right, but we didn't fly all the way from Savannah to Atlanta on one side, a house divided against itself cannot stand. Maybe after Arizona, what our children need to see is they need to see us sitting together. How do we tell Bloods and Crips to reconcile if Democrats and Republicans cannot sit together? Are they members of rival gangs, or are they servants of the people? So keep the train moving. I close with this: geese fly in formation. And they fly in a V formation for a reason. Pelicans fly alone. They flap their wings faster, but they don't go as far. Geese have figured out the laws of aviation and aerodynamics. The one out front is working the hardest. Those behind that one benefit from the efforts of the one out front. And every now and then you'll see one move from the front one step back. There's no vote, there's no split, there's no revolution. One moves to the back, and it is because geese have enough sense to know that my individual location is not as important as our collective destination. We have to fly together. And so fly together, walk together, run together, pray together, struggle together, march together, love together, work together, children. There's a great camp meeting. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land.
Pastor One.